We see what happened yesterday. We have been following this now for several months. What's your reaction to what we've seen in Dallas?
My reaction is I appreciate Mark Cuban going in front of a microphone and showing a level of contrite, and I appreciate him coming for public consumption to do that. However, he got off light with this punishment. A $10 million fine for a guy that's worth almost $3 billion could be considered a drop in the bucket for a lot of people. It could also be considered throwing money at the issue. And so for the Mavs and their employees, I'm truly surprised that the basketball team didn't get any punishment in any way, shape, or form. And I know people are going to say the business aspect is different from the basketball aspect, but the owner is still the same. And so when this kind of behavior has been going on for so very long, almost 2 decades, he didn't know about it based on a lot of the reports that we're hearing. But when you're not putting yourself front and center as the leader, it can always be construed as you're now enabling the behavior. And so for this guy to be in a powerful position, for them to basically have their HR in an open office where cubicles and people didn't feel comfortable coming forward based on those dynamics is really troubling to hear. And I'm surprised the NBA, as an organization that's been at the forefront of making the decisions and shattering glass ceilings in business and whatnot, didn't come down stronger on Cuban.
To some degree, if there is a belief, and I've certainly heard many say it, that the NBA went light on Cuban in this circumstance, perhaps they get a relatively well-deserved benefit of the doubt based upon how progressive they have been, for the most part, on issues like this. But if there's one thing that I have taken from this, not just this story, but everything that we've seen over the last 18 months, it is that we have now arrived at a point where I think it is no longer acceptable for men in positions of power to say, I didn't know, because that is a blind spot that has now been pointed out to all of us. And there are not too many women I know who have been surprised by these stories, and I know a lot of men, myself included, who have been stunned and horrified by them. And what does that tell you? That tells you there's a degree of understanding of the way this world works that a lot of men in positions of authority do not have. And so the only two solutions to that are obvious. One is to have more women in positions where they can impact things like this, and the other is to recognize, if you are a man in a position of authority, this stuff is happening. It is not enough to just say, well, I didn't know directly. I don't have any doubt for a second that if Mark Cuban had been directly aware of the things that were going on, he wouldn't have done something about it. It was a blind spot. But that blind spot is one that I think for all of us as men is no longer acceptable, because it is so clear, so obvious that this sort of behavior is rampant in businesses and other places around the country. I have to leave it there. We have so much more to say about